Hello, in this video I'm just going to demonstrate a little bit of Hair Strand Designer and kind of what I'm trying to make using Zbrush. So first I'm going to make some strands, and I just want a big clump here to fill up the space, and I'm just going to decrease the distance a bit and increase the spacing and increase the length more. Now I'm just going to do a little bit of variation so that each one is a bit different. I'm also going to shuffle it with the dice here so I get something unique. Okay, I'm going to bring the thickness right down, so I'll do 1 to 2. And let's do a little bit of more waviness and also more range. Now to calm it down a bit, I can use a bit more variation and tapering actually. I get all these different kind of clumps. Color wise, I should keep it to grayscale so it's customizable quite easily, so I'll just use like a mid darkish grey for the background. Variation tones, I'll make them dark grey and light grey. The root tone I'll keep black, and the tip tone I'll make white. And that should be enough to make a colour map. I'm just going to increase the strands a lot more and a bit more spacing. Okay, that looks like it should do it. Let's render the colour map. Okay, and check that out. You can see it looks quite detailed and busy. I think it could do with more strands, but obviously I'm kind of at the maximum here, so the only way around that is really to increase the thickness a bit. So let's go 2 to 4 and just do the distance a little bit more. And let's bring the tapering down a bit. Go for a new colour map. So generate. Okay, that's a bit better. It's obviously going a little bit far on this side, so I'm going to choose set 11, and if I click it twice I can actually just isolate this one so I get a bit more performance and bring it in a bit from the side. And I'm also going to just change the variation on that one and a little bit of the waviness. Bring that down, taper it a bit more. Okay, let's right click to bring everything back and do maybe one more, generate. Okay, let's have a look at that. Oops. selected by accident, and I don't know if it will export, but we'll see. So yeah, so that looks good, and I'm just going to see if I'll export that. That didn't actually export, I need to regenerate it, so just how it goes. You can see how it makes all the little follicles as it makes the hair, and the normal map is also quite nice. It will make the hair look more rounded. I think I might generate a normal map and kind of mix them together with using the red channel, and maybe the AO map would be cool as well. I'm going to mix these up in Photoshop though, because Hair Strand Designer only does so much, so let's do an AO and a normal map pass and generate those as well. In the meantime, let's open Photoshop. Okay, we got an issue there. Sometimes if you use Hair Strand Designer too much in one go, we get a memory leak crash. So I'm just going to run it again. I'm actually running it from a test build as well. So don't worry if GameMaker suddenly decides to, if Hair Strand Designer suddenly decides to crash on you, we can get it back. In fact, there's a bit of a problem here. Let's try again. Yeah. Of course, we get AVG interrupting. Okay, so it says it knows there's an autosave. I'm just going to say yes, and the good thing about that is it's reset the memory. This often happens when you've got maximum strands and full length. It eats up a lot more of your RAM, and it doesn't flush out old memory due to a little bit of a bug that is somewhat inherent to GameMaker, but also maybe the way that I'm using GameMaker to make Hair Strand Designer causes this problem. But it's been there for years, and I think it's one of those things that are fine. You know, the amount of time that you save in making these textures this way actually kind of justifies it. Well, it's not as big a deal, put it that way. So there we go, it's made them this time. So we've got the AO map, which kind of just does these little shadows, and you can actually blur this a little bit to get it looking a bit softer. And color map that we've done, and also a normal map, you can see, because I want to use that red channel. So let's export them. You'll see it flash a few times. Some sound effects in the background, sorry. Yep, it's always nice. So the bathroom's right next to the room, so I can't really help that. I chose my time. Okay, so that should be the 3 maps exported. We just need to wait a little bit longer than 20 seconds. Okay, it's all done, so let's jump over to Photoshop and open one of those, all of them even. Okay, so there's the AO, so I'll just copy that and I'm going to paste it over here and change the mode to multiply so that we get that little bit of shadow. And I'll actually just levels adjust this to get a better range. And I'm going to do a little bit of a Gaussian blur on it as well. I actually don't mind doing post-process this way. I just like that. I like to do some stages myself. Just one of those things. So I grab the red channel, this, and I'm going to paste that over here, and I'll change that to, you can either do overlay or multiply. Or multiply is going to darken it, so I recommend overlay. And I'm just going to do a little bit of blur, Gaussian blur on that as well. I just want these to look a little bit like three-dimensional strands. And there we go, we've got these really nice looking strands here. And you can imagine how this would look. Okay, so I'm just going to merge visible. And I'm just going to do export quick PNG. It's the fastest one from Photoshop, and just call this comp. I should have actually made the background black because Zbrush can actually make that transparent, but all I want to do is just demonstrate a little thing here. So yeah, so I've made this little hair clump, if you like, this little volume, and I've got my hair texture there. I'm actually going to do clone texture, and in the texture tool flip it vertically and then choose that one. That'll make this I think the bit, yeah, so that this is at the bottom and that's at the top. And I've already pre-done the UVs, so I'm just going to flatten them and then I can move them. So the way I'm going to move these is just to use W and let's see, I'll mask section, reset the rotation, and I can move these wherever I want. And if I do unflatten and flatten again, you'll see that it's moved, the texture's kind of updated, so I'm just going to move it a bit more there, and unflatten and flatten. That all seems to move. Yeah, just seems to be what happens. So if I just do unflatten like that, I could probably do the UVs another way elsewhere, but let's do something interesting with the UVs. Actually, I'm going to go to flatten and actually take these and scale them this way. And then do unflatten, and we'll get a lot more hairs built into that. It's going to do a divide and then just see what the render looks like. Actually, I have shadows cast from that as well. If I turn the ground off, we'll get rid of that. I think the wireframe's still on. Yeah, and there you go. Let's do a divide a couple more times. And you get the idea that you can get this nice texture clump. Now if I render a mask map as well, I can use that as a kind of black and white version. I can test that to see how it looks. This is a sort of semi-stylized workflow, I suppose, because we're using like high detail texture, but the clumps themselves are stylized. Right, so this time I'm going to ZBrush and choose the mask map, which is oh, it needs exported, of course. So I'll just export that on its own. I'll just do the same name and import it. Yeah, it crashed, but I think it still exported it, so let's just check that. That's there, and I can put the transparent on, and you see it looks a bit noisy until we do the BPR render. Right, what else can we do here? I was thinking of vertex painting it, but I don't think it will come through if I choose a different colour here. Yeah, it's completely overrode with the texture, but you get the idea. You can do something with that in a shader or something. So I'm just going to do control and drag. Let's delete the lower subdivs and scale it down. Control drag. And if we do auto groups and control shift click, we can do split hidden, and now we can reconstruct subdivs for this one. I'm kind of tempted to move this around. Let's move this up here. Fix my UI a little bit. Okay, reconstruct subdivs. We'll then go down to the low subdiv, and I can now come out of that and play with the shape of this one. You can see how I can start to build up some semi-stylized hair. Right, let's do a BPR just to check it. That's kind of cool. I don't know why this is whiter and those aren't. I guess it's because maybe they're separate tools. Let's try this. Oh yeah, these are still masked. There we go. Oops, and don't do that. So BPR. I'm going to turn the floor on just to see the shadows. Let's change the light's direction. The light's a little bit strange. Light source keeps moving for some reason. Maybe because we're using a matte cap. Let's try that again. Yeah, this seems to be what happens. Right, let's say that's what I want. I'm just going to, for example, I'm just going to merge, delete the lower and do a merge down. Keep the UVs, don't do any welding, just merge down. And I'm just going to export this and test it in Marmoset Toolbag. I always use FBX because it's a bit more predictable for me if the scale is going to be consistent. Let's test clump, and let's just check. Okay, that's exported, and I'm going to import. Now just grab the albedo. So that'll be the comp, and also transparency. I'm going to do cut it at first. Let's see what the other does as well. So we put the mask in there and change this to the red channel. Let's also do no backface cull. Turn that off. And you get these nice kind of volumetric forms that, yeah, they look okay when they intersect. Let's fix the shading of this. So I'm going to change this to anisotropic so that we can change it so it's going horizontally across the hairs like this, and we can kind of change that a bit as well. There we go. And play with the roughness if you want. Right, the other thing I can do is tint the albedo because it's just grayscale, and get that. And also we want a secondary reflection, which is, oh, also transmission. You can use maybe thin surface volumetric. I'll try thin surface because hair is quite thin, and we can change this color to maybe something that is more relevant. There we go, get a little bit of translucency. Let's fix this. So we do have a normal map, which is good, so let's use that. And I don't think it needs flipped or anything. Yeah, so it should be coming through, so you can see the strands there. Just thinking about how, so these are designed OpenGL, so you shouldn't have to flip white. Right, roughness. There should be another one. Let's try specular. We'll get maybe a bit better color from that if we change the these tones. Yeah, and do something like that. Now you would obviously have to make shaders like this in the engine, but you can see how this starts to look quite nice. I'm going to use detail normals just to boost the normals, so I'll just put the same normal map in there, and the detail weights 1, we can change that to like 5, and that should be stronger. Oh no, okay, maybe not, but it has made it stronger at least. Right, play around with these settings. Usually there's a secondary shine somewhere. Clear coat reflection. Let's also try this dither fade, which will help the ends a bit more. Not sure if it's better or worse. Yeah, it's kind of softer looking. And I'm actually going to change the texture here. I'm going to make the tiling a bit different, so you can see how we can tile it more times across the way, and also shift the texture about, because I want to just offset it so that the bottom looks better. So I'll do maybe 1.1 tiling and see if I can offset this something like there. Let's try 1.2. Right. Obviously I need to make the UVs better at the bottom so that we get the actual like nothing there. Right, let's do a little bit of post-process to help this. So I'm going to add a little bit of ambient occlusion. Oops. Try local reflections and diffuse, see if they do anything. What else can I do? Main camera, exposure, highlights, sharpen it. plume. Doesn't really help. Okay, let's just copy this a few times and rotate it, scale it, move it, and try avoid that clipping. See how it clips there? That's just one of the problems that comes with this, so you have to be careful about that. But yeah, you can see how you can build up here, and what I would suggest is having a different texture set with more loose areas that you go over these, and yeah, it should start to look a bit better. Let's just experiment with some colours. Not too fond of this shine. I don't know if it's down to the HDRI here, but let's add in a light source. And play with the colours here. Nope. There we go. We can kind of get a better look and shine for the sake of it inside Marmoset Toolbag at least. Yeah, but I hope that was a useful little bit of insight of possibly one way you could consider making textures and experiment a little bit as well. Thanks for watching this video, and hope you enjoy using the tool. Catch you later. Bye.